It was supposed to be a night of joy, a time for friends to gather and enjoy themselves. The streets of Santo Domingo were alive with the sounds of laughter and music, as people from all walks of life came together to celebrate. The air was filled with the aroma of delicious street food, and the vibrant colors of the city lights added to the festive atmosphere. In Santo Domingo, the heart of the Dominican Republic, a popular nightclub was alive with music and laughter. The club was known for its lively atmosphere and was a favorite spot for both locals and tourists. The DJ was spinning the latest hits, and the dance floor was packed with people moving to the rhythm of the music. The date was April 8, 2025. It was a night that many had been looking forward to for weeks. Special events and performances had been planned, and the excitement was palpable. Hundreds of people had come together to enjoy the evening. The club was filled to capacity, with everyone eager to make the most of the night. Friends were catching up, new connections were being made, and the energy in the room was electric. No one could have imagined the tragedy that was about to unfold. The night had started so perfectly, with everyone in high spirits, but fate had other plans. It was in the middle of the evening when the disaster struck. The music was at its peak, and the dance floor was a sea of moving bodies. Suddenly, without any warning, the unthinkable happened. With no warning, the roof of the nightclub gave way. The sound of the collapse was deafening, and in an instant, the joyous atmosphere turned into one of sheer terror. The music stopped, and screams filled the air. People were running in all directions, trying to find an exit, while others were trapped under the debris. The scene was one of utter chaos and confusion. The building, once filled with the rhythm of celebration, became a scene of chaos and despair. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but the damage had been done. The night that began with so much promise had ended in tragedy, leaving a community in mourning and a city forever changed. Survivors later described a terrifying scene. The roof seemed to vanish above them. Debris rained down on the crowd below. Screams were drowned out by the crushing weight of metal beams and concrete. Those who could scrambled for safety, desperate to escape the collapsing structure. Darkness descended as the structure gave way. Dust filled the air, making it difficult to breathe or see. For those trapped beneath the rubble, every breath was a struggle. The air was thick with the smell of concrete and the sounds of suffering. Within minutes of the collapse, emergency services raced to the scene. Ambulances, sirens wailing, navigated through the crowded streets of Santo Domingo. First responders were met with a scene of utter devastation. The once lively nightclub was now a tomb of twisted metal and broken concrete. Time was of the essence. Every second counted as rescuers searched for survivors. Working tirelessly, they used heavy equipment to remove debris and create a path to those trapped. The injured were carefully extracted and rushed to nearby hospitals. As the dust settled, the true scale of the tragedy became horrifyingly clear. The once bustling neighborhood was now a scene of devastation, with debris scattered everywhere and the air thick with dust. Rescue workers, clad in protective gear, tirelessly combed through the rubble, hoping to find survivors amidst the wreckage. The official death toll stood at 66, a grim reminder of the night's events. Each number represented a life lost, a family shattered, and a community in mourning. The streets were lined with emergency vehicles, their lights casting an eerie glow on the somber faces of those who had gathered. More than 150 people were injured, some critically. Hospitals in the vicinity were inundated with patients, their hallways echoing with the sounds of pain and urgency. Medical staff worked around the clock, their faces etched with exhaustion and determination. Hospitals struggled to cope with the influx of patients, their emergency rooms overwhelmed. Makeshift triage areas were set up in parking lots and corridors as doctors and nurses did their best to provide care under the most challenging circumstances. Families of the missing faced an agonizing wait for news. Every minute felt like an eternity as they clung to hope, their eyes scanning the faces of every new arrival, praying for a miracle. The air was thick with anxiety and the weight of unspoken fears. They gathered at hospitals, desperate for any information about their loved ones. Bulletin boards were filled with photos and descriptions of the missing, as volunteers and officials worked tirelessly to provide updates and support to the distraught families. The process of identifying the deceased was lengthy and heartbreaking, made more difficult by the chaotic nature of the collapse. Personal belongings were meticulously cataloged and DNA samples were taken to help with identification. For many families, the wait for confirmation was excruciating, each passing day a reminder of their loss. Section 5. A nation in mourning. The Dominican Republic was united in grief. The nightclub roof collapse was a national tragedy that touched the lives of countless citizens. Flags flew at half-mast as the nation mourned the loss of so many lives. The disaster served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life. The government declared a period of national mourning. Memorial services were held across the country, bringing communities together to grieve and offer support. The outpouring of grief was a testament to the collective pain felt by the nation. Section 6. Investigating the cause. In the wake of the tragedy, authorities launched a full-scale investigation into the cause of the roof collapse. Engineers and building inspectors combed through the wreckage, searching for clues. Their goal was to determine what went wrong and who, if anyone, was responsible. The investigation focused on the building's structural integrity, examining the materials used and the construction methods employed. Authorities also looked into whether building codes and safety regulations were followed during the nightclub's construction and operation. Section 7. Were there warning signs? As the investigation progressed, questions arose about whether there had been any warning signs leading up to the collapse. The community was in shock, grappling with the sudden tragedy that had struck their neighborhood. People wanted answers, and they wanted to know if this disaster could have been avoided. Some witnesses reported hearing cracking noises, which they initially dismissed as minor issues. These sounds, however, became more frequent and louder as the days went by. Others noticed visible structural irregularities, such as cracks in the walls and ceilings, which seemed to worsen over time. These signs were alarming, but many residents were unsure of their significance. These accounts raised concerns about whether the disaster could have been prevented. The community's anxiety grew as more people came forward with their observations, each story adding to the mounting evidence that something was terribly wrong. The authorities carefully reviewed all witness statements, seeking to establish a timeline of events leading up to the roof collapse. They interviewed dozens of residents, each providing crucial pieces of the puzzle. They also examined maintenance records and inspection reports to determine if there had been any known issues with the building's structural integrity. The investigation revealed that there had been previous complaints about the building's condition, but it was unclear if any action had been taken. Engineers and inspectors pored over blueprints and structural designs, looking for any flaws that might have contributed to the collapse. They also checked if the building had undergone any recent renovations or repairs that could have compromised its stability. Community meetings were held to keep residents informed about the progress of the investigation. Officials assured the public that every possible angle was being explored to understand the cause of the collapse and to prevent such tragedies in the future. As the investigation continued, the community came together to support the victims' families and honor those who had lost their lives. Memorials were set up and vigils were held, serving as a poignant reminder of the lives affected by this tragic event. Section 8. The importance of building regulations. The tragic event in Santo Domingo served as a stark reminder of the critical importance of building codes and safety regulations. These regulations are designed to protect public safety by setting minimum standards for the design, construction, and maintenance of buildings. When properly enforced, building codes play a crucial role in preventing structural failures and ensuring the safety of occupants. They provide a framework for ensuring that buildings are constructed with appropriate materials using sound engineering principles. Section 9. Preventing future tragedies. The nightclub roof collapse in Santo Domingo was a tragedy that shook the nation. In the aftermath, there were calls for stricter building codes and more rigorous enforcement of safety regulations. The goal was clear: to prevent such a disaster from ever happening again. The government vowed to review and strengthen building codes, ensuring that they met the highest safety standards. Increased inspections and stricter penalties for violations were also proposed. The hope was that these measures would prevent future tragedies and protect the lives of citizens.